Well, Fatima, as you can see behind me, the air is still thick with acrid smoke, made heavier today by the addition of cloud cover. Not that you can make them out, but that is a good sign because clouds, of course, bring with them the prospect of rain, and rain is what they need here more than anything else. Not the same, I should say, for central Oregon or for California, where harsher, hotter conditions persist. Well, we spent the day in the small rural town of Estacada, where we saw for ourselves the delicate balance between human life and the fires, where houses in many instances were butting right up against the smouldering forests. And that is why the fire crews and, as we discovered, prison inmates too are doing everything they can to push those fire lines back.
Yeah, plenty of stuff. Can anybody else see the video? The smoke in the lower part of Estacada has cleared quite a bit.
The daily patrol in Estacada, and Joel Laticki is live streaming to residents of this rural community in Oregon.
I don't know if there's any flames or anything we see or not, but
forced to evacuate as the fires raged ever closer. He takes them on a virtual tour, a chance to see if their homes have made it through another night.
And we are showing you guys that the town is here.
And to catch up on the efforts to fight the blaze.
They are currently putting in briar breaks all over the place. Everybody kind of getting in there and digging at it. We're going to walk out here to the bluff.
He takes his viewers to a vantage point at the top of town. In the smoke-filled valley below, crews are battling to keep the flames at bay.
If you look over here in the distance, you can actually see the smoke kind of rising up a little bit. I'll see if I can zoom in a little bit. If it was darker, you'd probably be able to see the actual flames.
Thanks to better weather, they've had some success, but it's not over yet. Estacada is still on level 3 alert, which means the fires could engulf at any moment. So the fear is that this fire, if it keeps coming, will obviously come up the hill, and we're looking at people's houses up here.
Exactly, both the regular professional firefighters and there are people trying to save their homes.
But it was too late for this couple.
This is your bed from upstairs.
When Dane and Hansel returned to the town, they found their home reduced to a pile of rubble, save for the solitary stone fireplace. But just imagine calling the town of Phoenix your home and returning to these apocalyptic scenes. Entire neighborhoods in this southern edge of Oregon now just rows of ash. They don't want this valley close to Los Angeles to go the same way. But the sheer force of Mother Nature versus these firefighters has left them battling for 10 days, and still she burns. It was to her home state of California that Kamala Harris returned yesterday. The Democratic vice presidential nominee on a tour of a burnt-out forest in Fresno.
This is not a partisan issue. It's just a fact. This is just a fact. And we have to do better as a country.
It may not be partisan, but it is political, and she knows it. Even in small towns like Estacada, some deny the climate science and recite the unproven theory that it's left-wing groups who've deliberately started the fires. Others have set up guard posts, paranoid that being forced to evacuate has left their homes vulnerable.
The biggest fear has been looters. Basically, when they know people are supposed to be out of their houses and gone, people want to take advantage of people's hard times and they want to come in, they'll kick doors in, break windows and try to steal everything that they can.
Is that happening?
Yes, it is happening.
But the only criminals we saw were the women from the local prison, roped in as part-time fire crews. Can I just ask you what it's like? Is it very hairy out there?
Yeah, it's really scary. Yeah. There's a lot going on right now.
Yeah.
They're saying it's like the biggest national disaster.
With over 1 million acres scorched, the state needs all the help it can get, and these women are paid $6 a day for their efforts.
Good job, guys.
You opted in to do this.
It just feels good to do something with our time, you know, and we're not all bad people in there, so we just want to let people know. Thank you. We might have made mistakes, but we're not all bad people in there.
But they're all seen as heroes here, no matter the stripes. And yes, the residents are desperate to get home as the fires abate. But as this police dash cam shows, there are still multiple hazards. And so they carry on, round the clock, pushing back the fires and levelling the smouldering remains in a bid to halt the spread. And hoping that any day now, the rains will come.
Siobhan Kennedy in Oregon for us. Well, elsewhere in America, Hurricane Sally is bringing historic and catastrophic flooding to southern states as it sweeps along the Gulf Coast with dangerous levels of wind and rain. Alabama, Florida and Mississippi have all declared states of emergency, while hundreds of thousands of homes and businesses are without power. Krishnan Gurumurthy is in Pensacola, Florida, right in the path of the storm. Krishnan.
Well, the hurricane arrived here in Pensacola quite a few hours ago and is actually moving slowly further along the coast. It's now heading over the Florida Panhandle. Now, yesterday when we spoke to you from Louisiana, we were with people there who were braced for this hurricane to hit them. It largely spared Louisiana, and we drove through Mississippi and Alabama to get here to the edge of Florida, and the hurricane has hit here. It's taken out power in all these areas. That road that you may be able to just see in the distance leads to a bridge. A chunk of that bridge has collapsed. That's one of the key routes from Pensacola over to the rest of Florida. So this is a storm that is now slowing down a little bit, but causing all sorts of mayhem and havoc because it's carrying a huge amount of moisture that is coming down as rain and is likely to cause flooding in places where people just aren't expecting it. Here's what we found today. Sally made landfall as a Category 2 hurricane with winds of up to 105 miles per hour. In coastal towns, the streets quickly filled with water and cars became stranded. There's extensive flooding as strong winds whipped right across the region. So far, almost 500,000 homes and businesses have been left without power in Alabama and Florida. Officials across the south coast have called on people living here, particularly in the low-lying areas, to take shelter, warning them there is still a threat to life. The hurricane is moving at an unusually slow pace, just 2 to 3 miles per hour, and the impact of the rain and wind on the area is building and is expected to move inland. The storm hit here in Pensacola, Florida in the early hours of the morning, and this flooding is a combination of the storm surge and heavy rain. About 20 inches of rain has fallen here since the storm started, and that's the real threat, because as this storm is moving so slowly, the rain is continuing to come down and is going to cause havoc right from this part of Florida all the way inland, right up to Georgia. Jordan Muse abandoned her mobile home in Pensacola and took shelter with her family in this hotel.
You're kind of scared at this point?
Everything is underwater. Buildings. This is crazy. I mean, there's got to be people that were left in their offices, you know, things like that at this point. Hopefully everybody got out okay.
Others are just curious and have come to have a look. Have you seen anything like this before?
Yeah, once since Ivan, but this was completely unexpected.
Sally is the second hurricane to hit the Gulf Coast in less than 3 weeks, and with 4 more storms out in the ocean threatening to hit land, this hurricane season is not just memorable, it is starting to affect the election campaign too, as more people talk about climate change and the Democrats use it to attack Donald Trump as a climate change denier. Of course, people in these areas are used to the weather, and there's quite a lot of skepticism when you talk to people on the streets about whether this is just normal bad weather or whether this is getting worse because of climate change. The effects of this storm in terms of knocking out power for about 500,000 people so far and knocking out a lot of the fuel facilities that are in this area and just offshore will be felt slightly less than they would have been had we not been in the coronavirus crisis and demand was lower anyway. But for now, these storms keep surprising people, and the predictions that go from hour to hour never seem to be quite right. So we'll see where this takes us tomorrow.